But Secretary Carter also used the opportunity to defend the Obama administration's strategy in Mosul. Joining us right now is retired U.S. Marine Corps General and former Middle East commander during the Iraq War, Anthony Zinni. General Zinni, it is an honor to have you on the program today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Maria.
Let's talk about some of the hot spots in the world today. First off, Mosul. How would you characterize the fight there and our troops' success?
Well, I think it's about time. ISIS has occupied this territory for over 2 years, and we needed to get them out before we move to decide how this is going to end up. I think the real challenge is going to be once ISIS is defeated, and that's still going to be tough. The house-to-house fighting, the humanitarian situation that will occur during and after the fighting. But after that's all over, the real challenge is going to be how do we put this all back together again? It may not be that there can be an Iraq or a Syria as we knew it before. So I think it's time, before the fighting really ends at some point, that we start thinking about this, and we have to engage the regional powers and the international community to start thinking about this.
So what do you think would a successful transition in terms of defense look like? What should be the Trump administration's military goals as you look at the hot spots around the world today?
Well, I think there's several things. First of all, it's the selection of the Secretary of Defense. I would like to see someone who is a true strategic thinker and actor, one who's an innovator, because I think we have to leverage technology, rethink some of the structure and organizational issues in our military. That really needs to be cleaned up. And we need somebody that knows the military. We need a strategy out there to which we can fit the kind of military we need. I don't really believe we have had true strategic thinking and acting since the end of the Cold War. And so we have a military that constantly is confused as to what the political objectives are, what is the strategy, and what kind of military do we need. And you can't start rebuilding a military unless you know why you're doing it and for what purpose.
Yeah,
and that's been absent for quite a while.
Ken Langone is with us today.
General Zinni, first of all, thank you so much for your great service to our country for these many, many years. You've done it. We're all grateful to you. We thank God for people like you, that guys like me can go off and do our things, and you make sure we're protected. So God bless you, and thank you very much for all of us.
Thank you.
I'm reading for the second time the book, The Best and the Brightest. And it seems to me that at least for the last 40 years, our military, on a ground level basis, where the war is, where the conflict is, have had their hands tied behind their back. I think, for example, General Schwarzkopf made a phone call to the White House and said, look, we got him on the run. We can get him in 24 hours. Think of what would have happened had we taken Saddam out then, instead of waiting the way we did. And then more recently, the war in Iraq, where literally people on desks, Rumsfeld and so forth, sat here and tried to tell the military how to fight a battle. How important is it going to be for you people, for the military, to get back the authority and the judgment that should be yours in how we win a war?
Well, I think you're right on the money. You know, the president needs to have confidence in his military commanders. And if he doesn't, he should replace them with people he has confidence in. The days of George Marshall and Dwight Eisenhower, those were the days when the president knew his commanders and trusted their military judgment. I was in Iraq in 2010 and also in Afghanistan. What I saw is we had changed commanders in Afghanistan, for example, every year for 10 years.
Wow. And
the same in Iraq. And that inconsistency gets to the point you made. The troops on the ground see rules of engagement change, operational designs change, and it's confusion at its best. So we've got to rebuild the uniform relationship with our civilian masters and the trust that's been absent, I think.
That is such an important point, General. And you know, but there are the obvious things that seem somewhat obvious to have consistent leadership. And then there are things that are less obvious, like Russia inserting itself in the Syria conflict. How should the Trump administration be looking at Russia and dealing with Russia? Do we trust them or not?
Well, I think Russia's testing us, not only in the Middle East, but obviously in Eastern Europe and elsewhere. And I think Putin is sensing that maybe NATO isn't as committed and as cohesive as it once was, and maybe American leadership isn't as strong in these parts of the world as it has been. And what we've got to do is regain respect. We've got to, I think, revamp NATO into a more viable military alliance. We need to pull together our allies in the Middle East and the region, make sure they understand we are committed to their security. But the real trick here in dealing with the Russians is to regain that respect and that position of leadership in places where they're testing us.
Can Donald Trump do it?
I think any president can do it. It's a matter of will, and it's a matter of building the right kind of military, and it's a matter of having the right strategy and people who think through the kinds of things we need to do. And I would add to that, building strong alliances and partnerships around the world.
General Zinni, before you leave, do me a favor. Give me a call when you're in New York. You and Maria and I will have lunch one day. 3 paisanos getting together. That's not bad. God bless you.
You're on.
General, thank you so much for your time this morning. We so appreciate it. General Anthony Zinni joining us there.